What if some of the world's most beautiful languages were quietly disappearing while the modern world barely noticed? Across Italy, ancient dialects once spoken through crowded village streets, family kitchens, fishing ports, mountain towns, and local festivals are slowly fading into silence. Languages like Neapolitan, Sicilian, Venetian, Sardinian, and dozens of smaller regional dialects are increasingly being replaced by standardized Italian and the overwhelming influence of English-driven global media. Welcome back to Il Volo Space, the channel where music, culture, language, and cinematic storytelling come together. If you love deep dives into Italian heritage, operatic pop, and the hidden cultural power behind music, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our growing international community of music lovers and cultural explorers. For younger generations growing up in the digital age, these dialects often feel disconnected from modern life. Many Gen Z Italians understand fragments of their grandparents' regional speech but rarely use it themselves. Some dialects survive only in isolated communities or among older speakers. Others are disappearing entirely, carrying centuries of oral history, identity, humor, emotional expression, and cultural memory with them. But hidden inside the cinematic harmonies of Il Volo lies something far more important than entertainment. Through lyrical adaptation, operatic reinterpretation, and emotionally charged performances, the trio is helping preserve fragments of Italy's endangered linguistic heritage for a global audience. They are not simply singing songs. They are turning music into a living archive. The crisis surrounding Italian dialects is far deeper than many people realize. Standardized Italian only became dominant nationally in the 20th century. Before that, millions of Italians primarily communicated through regional dialects, shaped by centuries of local history, foreign influence, migration, trade, and isolation. Sicilian contains traces of Arabic, Greek, Spanish, and Norman influence. Neapolitan carries echoes of Mediterranean cultural exchange stretching back centuries. These dialects are not merely accents. They are entire cultural ecosystems containing unique vocabularies, emotional rhythms, and ways of seeing the world. When a dialect disappears, a certain way of thinking disappears with it. That is why preservation matters. Modern globalization has accelerated this decline dramatically. English dominates digital media, global entertainment, and online communication. Standard Italian dominates education, government, and national broadcasting. Younger generations increasingly adapt their speech to fit internationalized culture. As a result, regional linguistic identity slowly erodes. In many ways, Italy risks losing pieces of its emotional DNA. This is where Il Volo's role becomes unexpectedly significant. Through their music, they reintroduce regional linguistic elements into mainstream consciousness. Rather than treating dialects as outdated or provincial, they elevate them onto prestigious global stages. Ancient phrases, emotional pronunciations, and traditional lyrical structures suddenly become part of cinematic performances consumed by millions around the world. The transformation is remarkable. A dialect once associated only with aging local communities can suddenly appear inside a globally streamed concert filled with orchestral grandeur, luxury aesthetics, and emotional spectacle. Younger audiences who may have ignored these linguistic traditions now encounter them within emotionally powerful artistic experiences. Music changes the context, and context changes value. One of the most fascinating aspects of Il Volo's approach is how carefully they preserve emotional authenticity while adapting dialects for international accessibility. Their performances often blend traditional regional pronunciation with modern operatic pop production designed for contemporary audiences. This creates what could be described as a sonic time capsule, ancient linguistic structures embedded inside globally accessible musical experiences. Instead of locking dialects inside academic archives or museum recordings, they place them inside emotionally immersive performances capable of reaching audiences in Tokyo, New York City, Paris, and beyond. This matters because preservation alone is not enough. A language survives when people emotionally connect with it. Traditional preservation models often struggle because younger audiences rarely engage deeply with purely academic presentations of cultural heritage. But music operates differently. Melody bypasses resistance. Emotion creates memory. A single lyric sung with passion can reignite curiosity about identity more effectively than years of formal instruction. Il Volo understands this instinctively. Their operatic style gives regional dialects an unexpected sense of prestige. Historically, some dialects were unfairly associated with lower social status or rural identity, especially during periods when standardized Italian became linked to national modernization and professional advancement. Many families even discouraged younger generations from speaking dialects publicly in order to appear more educated or socially mobile. Il Volo reverses that cultural hierarchy. By placing regional language structures inside luxurious, cinematic, internationally celebrated performances, they transform dialects from symbols of provincial limitation into symbols of artistic authenticity and cultural richness. Suddenly, younger listeners no longer perceive these linguistic traditions as embarrassing remnants of the past. They begin to see them as emotionally powerful expressions of heritage. This psychological shift is incredibly important. Cultural survival depends not only on preservation, but also on prestige. When younger generations see ancient dialects performed on world-class stages, surrounded by orchestral arrangements, cinematic visuals, and emotional audience reactions, those dialects gain renewed symbolic value. They become aspirational rather than obsolete. The technical side of this preservation effort is equally fascinating. Singing authentically in non-standardized dialects requires enormous phonetic precision. Sicilian and Neapolitan pronunciation often contain vocal textures, rhythms, and tonal characteristics absent from standardized Italian. Certain vowel shapes, consonant stresses, and melodic inflections carry emotional meaning deeply rooted in local tradition. Performing these dialects authentically demands careful linguistic sensitivity. Il Volo's commitment to preserving these vocal nuances, rather than completely neutralizing them, demonstrates an important form of cultural respect. They do not fully flatten regional identity for global audiences. Instead, they preserve enough phonetic authenticity to maintain emotional credibility while still making the music accessible internationally. This balancing act transforms the trio into something more than performers. They become linguistic curators. Their international touring circuit also produces unexpected cultural consequences. Fans across the world who may never have encountered Sicilian or Neapolitan dialects suddenly find themselves singing fragments of endangered linguistic traditions without fully realizing it. Audiences in distant countries memorize choruses, imitate pronunciation, and emotionally engage with sounds tied directly to regional Italian history. Music creates accidental preservation. A teenager in another country, streaming an Il Volo performance, may unknowingly become exposed to linguistic patterns that otherwise might have remained confined to aging communities in southern Italy. This is one of the extraordinary powers of global entertainment in the digital age. It can circulate endangered cultural fragments farther and faster than traditional preservation institutions ever could. Digital media amplifies this effect even further. Modern audiences consume music visually as much as sonically. Il Volo's high-production music videos, cinematic staging, drone cinematography, and luxury aesthetics package ancient linguistic heritage inside visually modern experiences designed for social media circulation and streaming culture. This fusion of ancient language and contemporary presentation is crucial. Gen Z audiences often reconnect with heritage when it feels emotionally relevant and aesthetically compelling. Il Volo understands that preserving tradition does not mean freezing it in the past. It means translating it into forms modern audiences are willing to embrace. Their work may ultimately provide a blueprint for cultural survival far beyond Italy itself. Across the world, thousands of endangered languages and regional dialects face extinction due to globalization, urbanization, migration, and digital homogenization. Traditional preservation methods remain important, but they often fail to emotionally engage younger generations. Music offers another path. one where endangered language becomes emotionally alive rather than historically archived. By embedding regional identity inside globally consumable art, cultures may preserve fragments of themselves capable of surviving the pressures of modernity. In many ways, Il Volo represents a larger truth about the future of cultural heritage in the digital era. Survival will depend not only on documentation, but on emotional reinvention. A language cannot live only inside textbooks. It must continue to breathe through voices, melodies, stories, and shared emotional experiences. And every time Il Volo sings fragments of Italy's fading dialects before thousands of people around the world, they prove that music still possesses the power to carry memory across generations, not as nostalgia, but as living culture.